Welcome to this special edition of the Fast Lane. Trey Lau here with you, and we're talking the second time Notre Dame is heading to the Commonwealth. So we're once again joined by Pete Sampson of The Athletic. And Pete, let's jump right into it. Maybe the tougher matchup for Notre Dame coming into the season, it was definitely appeared to be Virginia Tech, but depending on the health of Virginia, this is a very tough test for a Notre Dame team that has improved a lot since the last time they came to Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question there. I think they were still finding themselves when they went to Blacksburg, the beginning of October. Who were they at quarterback? Jack Cohn was injured. Was he going to play? Tyler Buchner comes into the game. Felt like, okay, wait, is this the new guy? Cohn comes in, wins it at the end. They have a much more, I think, steady way about themselves offensively now. They know who they are. Their offensive line is so much better than it was when they went to Virginia Tech. And I mean, all that's important because it's hard to beat Virginia unless you're going to outscore them. And I wouldn't say that Notre Dame was in a position to outscore anybody at the beginning of October. Here, getting into mid-November a little bit, I think Notre Dame's built to score, and they will definitely need to on Saturday night.
You already kind of touched on it, the offensive identity, and we'll talk about the two quarterback system in a moment, but it's good to have an All-American running back, and Kyron Williams seemed to be he had a really good game against Virginia Tech, and that kind of got him going, and this offensive line, with running the football is just like, hello, welcome back, Kyron Williams, and he's been phenomenal down the stretch.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you watch Notre Dame closely in September, you knew Kyron Williams was playing well. He just had no opportunity to do anything. It's hard to make two guys miss behind the line of scrimmage on every carry that you have. And he doesn't have to do that kind of work anymore. So it's now he's making two guys miss at the second level or the third level. And, the output is a lot more impressive. It looks better on the eye. And it's, you've got a new left tackle, Joe Alt, whose first start was at Virginia Tech. Or at least that's sort of where he came into the game and took over. Andrew Kristofik at left guard came in at Virginia Tech and hasn't left the lineup since. So it's strange because it's a bigger line. They're bigger at guard with Kristofik, number 73. But Joe Alt was kind of a 3-star prospect who's a freshman. And the fact that he's starting at Notre Dame, a place that almost never, ever starts freshmen on the offensive line and playing well is really remarkable.
And, I want to say a star was born, at least, kind of the true freshman came in, Tyler Buchner, in that Virginia Tech game and played well using his legs. Obviously, throwing the ball was a little bit of an issue in that one, but Jack Cohn is kind of retaken the role at quarterback, but they've still used Buchner a lot. This is really a two quarterback system. How has kind of Notre Dame evolved their quarterback room as, from trying to just find its identity, which I feel like it's had over the last couple of weeks?
With Cohn, they've figured out that, all right, having him stand in the pocket for more than 3 seconds is not a winning formula. So it's they'll play tempo, but I think when you hear somebody plays tempo, it's like warp speed, chucking the ball all over the place. And Notre Dame's tempo is more snap the ball, throw the ball, not be so dependent on taking deep shots, which is what I think the offensive coordinator Timers thought this offense was going to be when the season started. More vertical, more protected up and throw it deep. That has not worked, and so they figured out a better formula with Cohn, really going back to the end of the Virginia Tech game, where it's almost sort of like how can you build the entire offense out of the 2-minute drill, and that's sort of how they play with Cohn. With Buchner, what they did at Virginia Tech with him was kind of shocking because he had been a run only quarterback to that point, and suddenly it's like here's the entire playbook. Figure it out at Lane Stadium. Throws a pick six, another really bad interception. It's they've sort of met in the middle where he's more of a full quarterback in terms of the playbook now than he was going into Virginia Tech, but they're not having him do everything or try to do everything. He had a completion last week to Kevin Austin down by the goal line. It was his first completion on third down all season. So it's not like he has this full mastery of the quarterback, but they've sort of figured out, all right, here's 12, 13, 14 snaps for you, A lot of it is in plus territory. A lot of it's in the red zone. He sort of knows when he's coming in. He knows when he's coming out. So they've made the two quarterback system work, which can be tricky in college football. We've seen it blow up in a lot of coaches' faces.
Moving to the other side, both teams arguably best player. Well, yeah, both teams' best player could miss this game. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton got hurt, I believe, in the North Carolina game, and he was out. He's been out for the past couple of weeks. What is his? Do you know any idea about his status heading into this one, and how important would he be for this team?
So he got hurt first quarter against USC, so he missed pretty much all of that game, all of North Carolina, all of Navy. He's, if you're on The Athletic and you read Dane Brugler's draft analysis, he has him as the number 2 overall draft prospect next year. So pretty important, especially in this game. This is Navy was not going to expose Kyle Hamilton's absence. North Carolina could have, and kind of did. I mean, Sam Howell threw for more than 300 yards and rushed for more than 100. A healthy Brennan Armstrong, I think, absolutely would have made Notre Dame suffer for not having Kyle Hamilton. They just don't have anybody close to him at the back. And maybe that's not a huge surprise because, if he's a top 5, top 10 pick, it's hard to find 6'4", 225-pound safeties who can fly. Notre Dame doesn't have another one. They haven't had one like him in a long, long time, maybe ever. So it's tricky there. They play a lot of soft zone, which is not really what Marcus Freeman, their defense coordinator, is known for. They're not real aggressive in coverage anymore. So I think they've sort of backed off some of those things. And I think that, you look at Virginia's receivers, it's not just that they make big plays. It's not a lot of catch and it is some catch and run big plays, but they take a lot of deep shots. If you have a safety who can go sideline to sideline, no problem, and take that stuff away, that's a big deal. Notre Dame doesn't have that now. So it's, a healthy Brendan Armstrong, I would pick Virginia to win the game. Brendan Armstrong with a broken rib, I'm not so sure. That is a big limiting factor for not just him as a passer, but even more so him as a runner, where he's just so effective and frustrating for defenses.
Yeah, his status is very much in the air. Obviously, I guess for good reason, the coaching staff is hiding it, which is like every injury ever in college football. Like they're just gonna hide it till game time. So you look at the backup, Keaton Thompson. They got a couple guys in there that are very versatile. It probably will be a more run-based offense for the Cavaliers. So if Armstrong is unable to go, do you expect maybe a similar, I don't want to say similar game plan to Navy because their offense is just so unique, but definitely more of a run-based attack compared to maybe what they saw from North Carolina?
That would be exactly what Notre Dame would prefer. Because if you just sort of rank Notre Dame's best defensive players position by position, like defensive line is their strength. Their linebackers as run stoppers are very, very good. But when you start to ask them to play in space and cover a whole lot of ground, that's where their liabilities show. So if Virginia wants to play it a little bit more like Wisconsin, where it's run first and second, take a few shots, Notre Dame would love that. If Virginia wants to play it more like North Carolina, where it's balanced, where you're taking shot plays, where you have slot receivers running all over the place, and you have a quarterback who can run it, but also a dynamic running back. I don't feel like Virginia has like North Carolina Ty Chandler at running back, who is really good up here. But to me, that's where Notre Dame will still be very good on defenses if you're going to try to play run first. If you try to play pass first and really spread them out sideline to sideline, but also vertically, that's where I think you can find Notre Dame's liabilities on defense. And mostly that's at safety. I think their corner play is just okay. But without Kyle Hamilton, the secondary is very average, by Power 5 standards.
Now, you touched on it. If Brendan Armstrong's in, you think that UVA has a real shot in this game. Their receivers are very versatile in terms of, they have some big body receivers. They have a Billy Kemp who's really good in space and getting you, as a slot receiver. And then Keaton Thompson is called just a football player. We touched on him as the backup quarterback. Well, they also line him up everywhere on the field. If this is the full weaponment of this Virginia offense, which, they are getting some weapons back, how big of a challenge is this for the Virginia defense, or for the Notre Dame defense, excuse me, that's really has not faced kind of the versatility that Virginia can bring?
Yeah, I wonder how much North Carolina would have prepared Notre Dame for this. I mean, North Carolina is real smart offensively. They also have a great quarterback. Their receiver, Josh Downs, their slot is incredible. But their outside receivers, I don't think are at Virginia's level. So it's Virginia, I think, is the first team Notre Dame will have played that, if Armstrong is healthy, can find the weaknesses in Notre Dame's defense and exploit them. Like the weaknesses have been there, but like either Notre Dame's pass rush has been so good, or it's been 3rd and 12 and Notre Dame is happy to give you not a 9-yard completion. Like teams have just not really figured out how to get at Notre Dame's weaknesses at corner and safety. So I feel like North Carolina did. They were able to match up their best player on safety Ramon Henderson, number 11, who is probably Notre Dame's 7th best defensive back, but plays when Notre Dame goes into dime sets. So when you see number 11 for Notre Dame on the field, figure out who he's covering. And then Brennan Armstrong is also going to figure out who he's covering, and they're probably going to throw the ball there. So there are some weaknesses that Virginia can attack on the individual basis. I'm not entirely sure how Notre Dame will hold up in those kind of matchups.
Pete, final question for you. Well, it's kind of a two-parter. So Notre Dame's favored by 5.5. Over under is 64.5. So what do you think about that? And also, do you think there's any chance this tops the last time these two teams played in Charlottesville? Do we have another college football meme coming out with the dude hanging over the ball?
To say like no way that there will be another sad Virginia fan moment for anybody. Could be a sad Notre Dame fan, but man, it's been a hell of an entertaining season. So I don't want to rule that out. I like Notre Dame in this game because Brennan Armstrong is not going to be 100%. Like I expect him to play, but I think that he will sort of lose the run pass element to his game, which is one of the reasons why he's so good. So I like the over. I haven't checked the weather yet for Saturday night. Hopefully it will be sort of a dry track, not quite like South Bend where it's gray and rainy all the time.
56 and clear.
Perfect. And I think because Notre Dame has found itself offensively, I think they'll be able to sort of play defense on offense. Virginia's defense is really bad. And Notre Dame has sort of found itself offensively. So I'm going with Notre Dame 42, Virginia 34. I think it'd be really entertaining. And I do think if we were getting 100% Brennan Armstrong versus Notre Dame without Kyle Hamilton, then I would pick Virginia to win. But I think his status being up in the air, and like, let's be honest, like if he plays, he's not 100%, right? No one who is a game time decision is actually 100%. So that's why I'll give Notre Dame a little bit of an edge, but I think it's going to be an awesome, entertaining game on Saturday.
Well, this is anything like the last time you played a ranked team. The over will be 100 by halftime. So we can only hope for the best. Pete, thank you so much for joining me twice this season now. And good news is I don't have to bother you the rest of the season. But how can listeners connect with you at The Athletic?
Yeah, you can follow me. I'm on Twitter at Pete Sampson _. I'm looking forward to getting down to Virginia tomorrow. And then you can follow me at theathletic.com, your college football tab with all sorts of good college football coverage. I know your Virginia Tech listeners are probably familiar with Andy Bitter. But yeah, I cover Notre Dame, and this weekend, that means I cover Virginia too. So I'm looking forward to getting down to Scott Stadium on Saturday night.
Well, Pete, thank you so much. Safe trip to Charlottesville, and good luck the rest of the season.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Thank you. As always, you can connect with us at Fastlane Ed Lane and me at Trey Lyle VT, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition of the Fastlane.